In 1996, we received one of the most iconic pieces of horror to date, and I'm not talking about my birth. That's close, but I'm talking about Resident Evil. With its tight-cornered claustrophobic setting in the Spencer Mansion, limited supply of ammunition and healing, and the sheer horror of the zombies and other BOWs sprinkled throughout the game, Resident Evil quickly grew in popularity as the definitive survival horror franchise to date. I can confidently say this because I don't know any other survival horror franchise that have spawned 24 video game titles, 7 live-action films, 4 completed animated films, a Netflix series, and a number of novelizations and comics. This game has had a weird history during the development cycle, and before I go into the details of the game itself, I would like to discuss some of the fun pieces of trivia during that development cycle. I think it's quite interesting. Let's start by saying Resident Evil was developed from 1994 to 1996 by Team Horror. A Capcom development team largely consisted of newbies within Planning Room 2, which would later rebrand themselves into Capcom Production Studio 4. The game was produced by Tokuro Fujiwara, the director of fairly popular horror game Sweet Home. His desire was to basically remake Sweet Home, or if not remake, then make a spiritual successor to it, which blows my mind to even think about. It was originally supposed to be a cleaner and player-friendly version of a game that released on the Famicom, which is the Japanese NES. I've never played Sweet Home myself, but the description of the game being a role-playing game that tells the story of a team of 5 filmmakers exploring an old mansion, yes, it does have some similarities to Resident Evil. Of course, it's not all similar, or they would have made Resident Evil an actual remake of Sweet Home. They did make a lot of changes, but it's wild to think that there was a game that basically popularized survival horror before Resident Evil. I'm a horror nerd at heart, so let's look at it like this. Halloween is usually given credit to be the first true slasher film. But if you look further into it, there are films such as the original Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre that have inspired a lot of what Halloween perfected. So putting it into survival horror terms, Resident Evil perfected the survival horror genre, but Sweet Home would be considered a proto-survival horror. Sorry to get so mumbo-jumbo on you all, I just find it so interesting and love looking into the little subgenres of these types of things, but let's get back on topic. During the design stage of development, there were proposals to have the cast cybernetically enhanced, which was, thankfully, rejected due to the writer Kenichiwa wanting it to be more grounded in the real world. Looking at these designs make me think of the Small Soldiers movie, if you all remember that award-winning blockbuster, and I don't think it would have been as successful if it went that route. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Small Soldiers at all, I love that freaking movie, but putting Resident Evil and Small Soldiers beside each other, we know which one grew more success. I still love you though, Archer. My dog. Another fun fact is the title change. The original title for the game was, and still is in Japan, Biohazard. It really cracked me up when I first found this out. I was looking at a Resident Evil cover online and saw the word Biohazard, and my first thought was, I cannot believe someone is plagiarizing Resident Evil. What an idiot. But I quickly found out that I was in fact the idiot because I'm an idiot. Resident Evil is Biohazard in Japan. The reason there was a name change was due to the development cycle team learning about a band in the United States named Biohazard and didn't want to have a lawsuit or anything. So what do? What anyone in that predicament would do, and gather a list of names until they found one that works. They held a competition between the developers and ended up with the classic name Resident Evil. That's my little history lesson on the game. If you'd like to find out more information, I highly recommend picking up the book Itchy Tasty. It's an unofficial history of Resident Evil, and it's written by Alex O'Neill. I haven't finished this book yet, but so far everything that I've read has been completely mind-blowing. I've learned so much information on this franchise, and it is just such a treat. If you're a Resident Evil fan, I highly recommend getting this book. I'll try to leave a link to the book down in the description below. But let's go ahead and break down this bad boy. From the moment we press start on this dude, we hear the iconic starting line of the game, Resident Evil. And we are greeted with one of the most wholesome cheese in the history of cheese. The start isn't so bad. It's a narration of Chris Redfield talking about the mission him and his team of STARS members are going to do. They head up to the Arkley Mountains and it all goes to shit. Not just what they're going to do, but the production quality of the intro as well. Don't get me wrong, I respect this game, but it is so funny to watch and listen. Watching it in today's time, you would think you're watching a scene from The Room. Tommy Wiseau was taking a few notes for that movie during his playthrough of Resident Evil, I can assure you that.
I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Anyways, the team is in danger with some infected pups and they make it to this mansion in the middle of the woods. Thank God the door to this $1 million home is unlocked. There's nothing weird about that at all. Before it takes us to the game, it shows us the cast of characters with what seems to be the soundtrack of a mysterious gothic jazz flick. I felt like Sherlock Holmes investigating Dracula's castle or something. During this retrospective, I will be using Jill Valentine's playthrough because it simply has the greatest dialogue in the history of dialogue itself, and I can't pass up the wholesome content. You're very welcome. But from the very start of the game, we hear Barry Burton spitting some very hard questions.
What is this?
Barry, it's a freaking house. What do you even mean, what is this? They're all talking and Jill says, "Where's Chris?" And Wesker tweaks out, realizing he could have possibly left Chris outside with the dogs. Jill tries to go check and Wesker very aggressively says no. Like, dude, chill out. She's 20 years old. You don't have to yell at her like she's some little kid trying to sneak a cookie out of the cookie jar. They hear a gunshot from somewhere inside the mansion and Jill decides to go check on it, but not without Barry tagging along. They run into the next room. Just so you know what room you're in, Barry decides to tell you and Jill himself.
A dining room.
He's so thoughtful like that, you gotta love him. They find a puddle of blood by the fireplace, so you go to look for more clues on what exactly is going on around here. Spoiler alert, you spend most of the game doing that. Not a complaint at all. I love that aspect of the game, and I think that's one of the key elements in a Resident Evil game. You're thrown into a nightmare situation and have no clue what the heck is going on, and it's up to you to solve it. It's classic. Jill walks into the next room, and what does she find? She finds me sitting in the floor chowing down on a nice bowl of cereal. I'm a freak and I can't help. Wait a minute, that's not me. And that's not cereal, that's a hobo man, and he's munching down on a human body. The figure gets up and comes at you, but you quickly run back over to Barry to alert him. Before Jill can get the words out, that Zom came right through the door to attack. But Barry doesn't even hesitate. It could have been an injured man, but hell no. Barry pulls his pistol out and unloads on the poor guy. After the damage is already done, Barry has the nerve to look down at the guy and say,
What is it?
I swear to God, this man is on some drugs from hell. He has no idea what is going on other than the layout of the rooms in a home. He probably should have chosen a different career path, maybe something in home inspections, perhaps? They go to report the scene to Papa Roach singer Jacoby Shaddix, Albert Wesker, but realize that the boy packed up and booked it as soon as they went into the next room. They decide that it's best to split up and look around some more. They may find Chris or Wesker in other parts of the mansion. Barry goes back to the dining room to what I assume is sitting there and pointing out that there are tables and chairs, and Jill goes to the opposite side. Thankfully, Barry forgot his lockpicking license and gave his lockpick to Jill. She is classified as the master, of course, so she better hold on to it for now. As soon as Barry leaves, Jill thinks it's best if she tries to sneak out the front door to escape without these idiots, but she's blocked off by one of the pups that chased her in there in the first place. No luck there. She goes through the mansion as originally planned, and them dogs decided they were done with being outside, and instead of using the doggy door, they burst through the windows instead. Kirby fact here, my dad said this part of the game scared the living hell out of him when he first played it. I'm sure I would have been too. It's an excellent jump scare, and those boys are fast. Jill was able to escape the little bastards for now and walked into some other rooms until stumbling upon a shotgun. Why not? They already broke into a home, why not steal this shotgun as well? She needed it more than them anyways, so I'll let it slide for now. But as she was exiting, the owner had a trap card in place just in case this very thing happened, and the ceiling was going to drop down on Jill. What the heck was she going to do? She couldn't get through the doors. She was going to die, but not today. Barry kicks that door open and saves the day. Just as Jill was thanking Barry for rescuing her, he started to get the munchies and begins thinking of food.
Almost a Jill sandwich.
Barry, you're freaking high. How are you so high and on the job? Jill starts getting suspicious at how strange Barry is getting. Wasn't he supposed to be in the dining room? She asks him what he's doing there and he's just flabbergasted by it all. They split up to look for more clues and doing so find a number of zombies in the house. They walk into each other again and Barry is so full of luck he finds some grenade launcher rounds but decides it's better in Jill's hands because he doesn't have the space in his inventory to hold grenade launcher rounds. Better occupying someone else's pockets. He doesn't need them anyways, he has his trusty Magnum.
I have this.
I know, that's what I just said. Anyways, Luck decided to follow Jill this time around and she found a grenade launcher in the next room. She's ready to kick some ass now and no zombies are going to stop her now. Nothing will. Well, except for maybe this giant snake. It's a sneaky little bastard and Jill had to unload a lot of ammo to stop that snake from getting inside her boot. Once you unload enough ammo on the thing, it pieces on out until another time. With some puzzle solving and backtracking, she starts narrowing down that something went terribly wrong in this place. If the zombies and giant snake wasn't enough, The files spread out through the mansion will give you just the right info you need to make the conclusion. She encounters a few other giant monsters as well, such as an evil plant, giant spider, humanoid bug things, and a slew of creatures called hunters. And let me tell you, if you don't already know this, these guys are a pain to kill. I would recommend dodging them if you can because they can take a lot of ammo to get rid of these creatures. Ammo that you need to hold on to. Jill eventually finds a hidden lab underneath the mansion that was ran by a company called Umbrella. They have spent a number of years working on bioweapons to make a profit, and something went very wrong indeed. They created the T-virus, and let's just say it wasn't contained very well. No thanks to Albert Wesker because he was helping Umbrella this whole time, and he needed to clean up the containment leak. And to make things worse, Barry was helping him the whole time. Not intentionally, thankfully. Wesker threatened to kill Barry's family, and he wasn't having that, and he did as he was told like a good old teddy berry. He's so ashamed of himself though, he walks away in tears for betraying his friends. If I saw someone walk away like that, I would just break down in tears myself and help him screw me over quicker. Wesker decides to spill the beans though and said he was a double agent, and he was in fact going to steal the research and use it for his own evil deeds. What an evil genius. But he made one mistake. He turned his back on Barry. Judy Chop! Jill is so excited to see Barry back on the good side, she goofs up and asks how his family's doing, knowing he has no clue because he's standing right in front of her. He's just as confused and responds the normal Barry way. They talk it over and decide to take a look at this tyrant Wesker was talking about, and my god, it is a beautiful piece of artwork. I love the design and think the tyrant is iconic to say the least. They decide to kill this thing, which is finally a smart decision on their part, but it doesn't go down without a fight. The tyrant is quick and has a long reach if you're not careful. They pack up everything they need and hightail out of there. Luckily they find Chris Redfield in a cell this whole time and they free him too, why not? The place was about to explode anyways. Better have another friend to tag along. Just before they make it to safety though, the tyrant comes back for one last scare. But Jill's had enough and shoots the bastard to death with a rocket launcher. The helicopter lands and rescues them, the nightmare is over, and as they fly out into the sunrise, Jill lays her head on Chris, and they're so cute together. And that's the end. As much as I dunked on this game, it was all for laughs. It does have a certain charm to it, and it is well worth the play even in today's time. Yes, it is very cheesy and hard to handle at times. The fixed camera angles and the tank controls aren't very prevalent in today's games, and with the first Resident Evil in particular, it's not very streamlined either in that title. It's a little clunky to control, and it just doesn't feel as good as it does in the next couple of games. Overall, Resident Evil 1 is the start of a franchise that has exploded throughout all the years, and we wouldn't have any of the games we know and love today without this ambitious title. It's not perfect by any means, but it does exactly what it was set out to do. It did well enough to spawn a sequel, and a few sequels, and a couple side titles on top of that, and a sequel, and another sequel, and a couple more sequels. And they even made a remake of this game that is absolute perfection. I have a few games I want to cover before we get to that one. I give Resident Evil some gold stars for a must-play game. What do you think of the original Resident Evil? Did you like it? Let me know down in the comments below. And leaving a like and subscribing to the channel is always appreciated. But if you want to be even cooler than that, I'm talking about as cool as Barry Burton beating the mastermind behind it all with a simple smack with his gun level of cool, then ring the bell so you're notified for each of my videos in the future. But until next time, take it easy, bubs.